Domestic Violence Awareness Month and Corporal Boltinghouse and the members of the, I'm going to get this wrong, Cochise Sierra Vista Regional DV Facility Review Team. Fatality Review Team. See, it's not even written in the script, right. I would ask if there are representatives to join me up front while I run around and grab the microphone real quick. Okay, it's my honor and privilege as mayor of the city of Sierra Vista to offer the following proclamation on behalf of the good citizens of Sierra Vista. Whereas domestic violence education, prevention, advocacy, enforcement, and prosecution need increased public attention and support, and whereas 1 in 4 women and 1 in 7 men will experience domestic violence in their lifetime, and we share a moral obligation to recognize, address, and stop domestic violence. Whereas only about half of domestic violence incidences are reported to police, and whereas the health, safety, and well-being of our families is now and must always continue to be one of our community's highest priorities, now therefore be resolved that I, Frederick W. Mueller, Mayor of the City of Sierra Vista, Arizona, do hereby proclaim October 2019 as National Domestic Violence Awareness Month in and for the City of Sierra Vista. In witness whereof, I hereunto set my hand and cause the great seal of the City of Sierra Vista to be affixed this the 10th day of October, the year of our Lord, 2019, and independence of the United States of America, 243rd, signed, Frederick W. Mueller, Mayor. Congratulations. Program. You wanted to say a few words?
Oh, surprised. Wait a minute.
Yeah, we all are.
Hi. Actually, we're from the Cochise County Family Community Coalition and the Cochise County Sierra Vista Regional Domestic Violence Fatality Review Team. My name is Liz York, and I'm with Cochise Victim Awareness. And Mayor Mueller said that 1 out of 4 women and 1 out of 7 men come into contact with domestic violence. Those were old numbers. We now have new numbers. The numbers from the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence are that 1 out of 3 women and 1 out of 4 men in the U.S. have experienced some form of physical violence by intimate partner. A typical day for the domestic violence hotline is to receive about 21,000 calls. Wow. 21,000 calls means about 15 calls a minute, every minute of every day. Intimate partner violence accounts for 15% of all violent crime. 72% of murder-suicides involve an intimate partner. 94% of those victims are female. I'd like to leave you with the number for the National Domestic Hotline. It's 1-800-799-SAFE. 1-800-799-SAFE. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you, ladies. Appreciate it. Move to the city manager's report. Mr. Patuchik.
Mueller, members of the council, our next regularly scheduled work session is scheduled for 3 p.m. on October 22nd. And my sheet says the conference room, but council determined that that meeting would be here in the chambers, so it will be in the council chambers instead. Just a few projects today. Turn to them. The airport erosion repair project, those bids will be due on October 30th and opened at that time. The Avenida Escuela Extension Improvements Consulting contract is also out for bid, and those will be opened on October 23rd. And then finally, today we had a CCOM board meeting, and a couple of significant items that came out of that is, one, the board approved pursuing emergency medical dispatch software system, which will greatly enhance the capabilities of CCOM in terms of being able to render quicker assistance in regards to medical emergencies. And then we're in the middle of the search for a new director, and we hope to potentially have those interviews occur at the November meeting. And that's all I have tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Patuchik. Any question for Mr. Patuchik on his report? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and proceed. I want to mention before we get started here, though, that we have a number of public hearing items. If there are members that would like to address us on those public hearing items, we have papers on the wall here and around the corner that you need to take and fill out and give to Maria so we can get you scheduled at the appropriate time on the agenda and give you your 5 minutes to speak. Next, we'll go to a tabled item. Do I have a motion to take item number 2 from the table for resolution 2019-075? Seeing no motion, we'll go on to item 3, but before we do that, I want to mention we had a member of the public that wanted to address us on this item. Is it Mr. Haupt? Is that your name, Haupt? I'm not calling you up, but what we'll do, since we don't have to follow Robert's rules, we're not talking about item number 2. However, if you want to, at the end, when we call for general comments, you certainly more than welcome to come up and address us on this item.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we'll go to item number 3, which is a public hearing item. Ms. Adams. Oh, excuse me, Ms. Humphrey, we've got to bring it to the table first. I'm getting ahead of myself.
That's okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that Resolution 2019-080, application for a Series 7 liquor license for Kevin Arnold Kramer, agent on behalf of Hampton Inn, 4100 East Snyder Boulevard, Sierra Vista, Arizona, be approved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. I don't have any members of the public that have asked us to speak on this item. If there are any, please raise your hand. Let us know. Okay, don't see anybody. So we'll go on are there questions or discussion for, I'm sorry, I'm getting way ahead of myself tonight. I don't know why, I don't have any place to go tonight, and I don't know why I'm speeding up.
What are we should be doing something.
Ms. Adams, can you give the staff report, please?
I will be brief. Mayor Mueller, members of council, this is an application for a ownership transfer of a Series 7 liquor license, which is a beer and wine bar liquor license for the Hampton Inn, 4100 East Snyder Boulevard. The notice of this public hearing was posted as required on the facility for over 20 days, and no comments have been received from the public, pro or con. The police department did a background check of the applicant, Mr. Kramer, and have no objection to this transfer moving forward, and if approved tonight, it will be returned to the state for final action.
Thank you. Any questions on the report from Ms. Adams? Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you very much. We now move on to item number 4, Mr. Benning.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that Resolution 2019-081, application for a Series 9 liquor license for Mohammed S. Rahman and Samia Afreen on behalf of the Beverage House located 999 East Fry Boulevard, Sierra Vista, Arizona, be approved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Ms. Adams, may we have the staff report?
Mayor Mueller, members of council, this item before you is for a new store liquor license located at tonight. If you have any questions of him, he is the owner. As with the other licenses, the notice of this public hearing was posted on the premise. We have received no comments, pro or con, regarding this action. The police department also did their background check and have, if approved tonight, it will be returned to the state for final action.
Thank you, Mrs. Adams. This again is a public hearing item. Is there anyone that would like to address this that hasn't submitted paperwork? Seeing none, we'll go on to any questions from Ms. Adams on this request from the council? Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you very much. We now will move on to item number 5. Mrs. Calhoun.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that Resolution 2019-082, application for a bingo license for Dorothy Bianco on behalf of the Village Association Sierra Vista Mobile Home Village, 733 South Deer Creek Lane, Sierra Vista, Arizona, be approved.
It's been moved and seconded. Ms. Adams, may we have the staff report, please?
Mayor Mueller, members of council, Arizona revised statute requires that when a entity or organization wants to hold bingo games, that they make application through the state for a bingo license, and part of that process is this public hearing tonight. There is no posting requirement for a bingo license, but there is a police background check of the applicant, which was done, and there was no objection to this license going forward. If approved tonight, it will go back up to the Department of Revenue with a recommendation of issuance on this bingo permit.
Thank you, Mrs. Adams. This also is a public hearing item. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak on this item? Because I don't have a sheet for you. Okay. Then we'll move on. We'll move on to comments and questions from council. Yes, ma'am.
Just a quick question. I don't remember from Tuesday. Is this for one time or regular, and how often do you have to get a permit or a license for bingo?
Mayor Mueller, Councilmember Calhoun, this is basically a perpetual permit. They may have to renew on occasion through the state, but it shouldn't have to come back to council. It should be a permanent license for their facility.
Thank you.
And they go through an audit system too, just in case you're wondering. Any other an audit system?
I was wondering.
Any other questions for Ms. Adams? Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? It's unanimous. We'll next move on to our last public hearing item for tonight. Item number 6, Mrs. Gray.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that Resolution 2019-083, Development Code Amendments to Section 151.04.004, Dumping or Disposal Rubbish, I feel like I'm British right now, Section 151.06.004, Home-Based Business, Article 151.10, Sign Regulations, and declaring a 30-day public record be approved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Mr. McLaughlin, may we have the staff report, please?
Sure. Mr. Mayor, members of council, good evening. As part of the annual work program process, the Planning and Zoning Commission has identified a series of amendments to the development code they wish to pursue over the next 6 to 8 months. The first grouping of amendments being proposed were initially determined to be relatively minor and straightforward. In retrospect, we should have dwelled a little bit longer on the proposed amendments to the home-based business section, which we'll discuss in a moment. The first item deals with removing the dumping provision from the development code, as it's already covered under the Building and Property Maintenance Code and the City Code of Ordinances. No public comment has been received on this change. The second item proposes a restriction on the sale of vehicles not owned or leased by the occupants of the property. This is defined to mean the sale of 2 or more vehicles on property at any given time. There was some confusion on the wording of this definition. The original intent is to limit automotive sales to no more than 1 vehicle at the property at any given time. Our recommendation would be to reword this sentence to be more plainly understood. Based on the discussion that occurred at the council work session, we developed some alternative language for you to consider that we hope responds to your questions and concerns. Again, the purpose of this amendment is to give clear guidance to applicants on the acceptable parameters for conducting a home-based business involving the sale, service, or repair of personal vehicles. As is the case today, the service and repair of vehicles not owned or leased by the occupants of the property is currently prohibited. However, if a homeowner is fixing up and flipping vehicles that they've purchased, it is permitted as a home-based business, provided the standards of review can be met. The alternative proposal before you would prohibit the secondhand sales of vehicles on a residential property, so you can't establish a used car sales lot in your front yard. However, if a resident wants to fix up and flip vehicles that they've purchased, they can do that provided they preserve the residential character of the property. The threshold for judging what is an acceptable impact is addressed in the proposed ordinance language. First, no more than 2 vehicles for repair or resale shall be kept on a property unless the applicant provides a plan to the city satisfactorily showing that additional vehicles for repair or resale can be stored without adversely impacting neighboring properties. So if you're lucky enough to own a large property in the city with a storage barn, that'll factor into our consideration. Second, all vehicles on the property shall be parked in a garage, under a carport, on a paved driveway surface, or behind an opaque wall or fence. Thirdly, the owner shall not operate the home-based business in a manner that creates a public nuisance. And I'll pause now for discussion on whether you want to proceed with the Planning and Zoning Commission recommendation or the alternative proposal language for the 30-day record.
Matt, what I'd like to do is go ahead and do your presentation. We have one member of the public that wants to address us on this item. And go ahead and finish, and then we'll come back and we'll start where you suggested.
And I'll just add that we did receive one public comment expressing neutrality on the proposed amendment, but a desire for the city council to consider allowing more than one full-time employee or equivalent in addition to those employees residing at the residence to work at a home-based business. That subject would have to come back to you as a separate agenda item if that's something you wish to consider. The third item under consideration pertains to multi-tenant signs. Right now, there's a minimum panel size of 9 square feet. The Planning and Zoning Commission recommends removing this requirement. The property owner would be responsible for allocating the square footage based on the number of tenants. The code currently allows up to 75 square feet for freestanding signs for multi-tenant properties. 15% needs to be reserved for building identification, leaving approximately 64 square feet for tenant signage or 7 sign panels under the current code if it was constructed under the maximum allowance. So with that, I'll respond to any questions you may have.
Okay, Matt, I'm going to ask you to sit down for a minute. We're going to ask a member of the public, Mr. Michael DiCarlo, to come up. Would like to address us. And Mr. DiCarlo, you've been here before. You know about the 5 minutes and the lights and all that other stuff. So I'm not going to bore you if I haven't already.
Mr. Mayor, Council, Michael DiCarlo, resident Sierra Vista since 02 or whatever, when I bought my home. I just feel that this is a economic stimulus package in disguise. We're making people buy new signs so that the city can tax them. The city has placed new signs on Tacoma. I recently have gone on like a 10,000-mile trip driving. Tacoma really looks like Mission Beach in San Diego, California, with the signs there. Those signs don't have like little tax stamps on the back. So we're creating a condition for the public on Tacoma with the signs for the bike lanes that don't have stickers, so they're really not legal in a sense, I imagine. I imagine there's probably some right around that the state has done. But we're creating conditions to make the fines higher for the people that live there. And the majority of people that traverse those areas, you know, there's apartment complexes there, right? So folks are already poor. So in theory, financially disadvantaged and not homeowners. But we're creating a condition so that the city can harvest the value from the citizens by merely putting up signs that really have no legal standing and putting some paint on the road. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. DiCarlo. Mr. McLaughlin, go ahead and proceed from where you wanted to start the conversation.
Okay. First of all, regarding the bike lane signage, those were installed in accordance with the Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices.
You don't need to answer. You don't need to
okay.
answer Mr. DiCarlo's concern.
And then on the proposed sign amendment,
Under
we're
the
providing
agendized item, that's why I say that.
we're providing the property owner with more latitude in how they want to allocate tenant signage.
Okay. So you want to go back and talk about the other changes?
Right,
Yeah.
so, yeah, the options before you are the Planning and Zoning Commission recommendation with the clarification on the definition, or the alternative staff proposal providing essentially performance standards for the sale, service, or repair of vehicles owned or leased by the occupants of the property.
Before we start council discussion, I just want to remind the council that the motion today is to declare a 30-day public hearing period so we can receive information from the public. When we pass this tonight, it won't be voting for or against it. It'll vote, it also does is we're voting to open up the public hearing period, and this will come back for council. And that's so the people in the audience know too. So do we have questions for Mr. McLaughlin? Yes, ma'am.
I have a couple questions. My first question is, and I understand this is just to open it up for the 30-day hearing, but one of the things that concerns me is I don't understand what the word satisfactorily means and who decides that.
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Wolf, it would be a permit consideration by the city, so satisfactorily means the plan was determined to be acceptable by staff and warrants issuance of a permit.
Okay. And then I guess my other question is, and Councilmember Benning, I apologize if I'm treading on your thunder right
Oh,
now.
I think you're right there, though. Go ahead.
Is he did bring up a point at the work session, and I actually tried to look it up myself and couldn't find it, although I could find it for like every other state but Arizona. Is there an amount of vehicles that you can sell before you have to get a commercial dealer's license? And I can tell you for Washington it's 6, but like I can't tell you for Arizona.
State of Arizona is 7.
Is it? And were we able to find that and verify that?
7.
That's not research I performed. It really wasn't a factor in developing this
So that's,
proposal.
unless the attorney knows that off the top of his head, we probably need to go ahead and find that answer for the council.
Yeah, Mayor,
verify that.
members of council, there is a limit. 7 sounds right, but I can find the statutory citation for you.
Thank you.
Okay.
I had a question.
Yes, ma'am.
To clarify, the vote this evening would be to open a 30-day comment period on, and would we choose the alternative staff proposal, 30-day comment period on one of the two?
It's what's being presented tonight, is my understanding.
Okay, on the staff proposal. So the comments would be related
If
to
it's
this
acceptable,
exact
yeah.
proposal. Okay.
And the thing is, we could actually change the whole thing in a month, and then we have to go ask, do we reopen it for another 30-day period, et cetera, which probably is true. So, again, the more correct we can get it earlier, the more acceptable we can get it earlier, the better it's gonna be, because the public is still gonna have to comment if we make major changes. We have to have another comment period.
I would state, I guess for the record, that section B makes me very uncomfortable. It just in my neighborhood alone, lots of my properties in my neighborhood only have gravel driveways, do not even have paved driveways on their property. So that requirement for all vehicles, and I understand it's only all vehicles that are for sale. I understand that.
So what you're really suggesting is the
On a
word paved driveway, the paved needs to
The
come out
paved
driveway.
would need, because I know of just driving in my neighborhood, lots of
other thing
properties
too
without
is
paved
what-
driveways.
The question I would ask is, getting back to the way Christine asked her first question, is in the estimate of the public, in your department, what does paved mean? Does that mean it has to have asphalt on it, or does that mean crushed rock is considered a form of pavement?
It would mean a hard surface, so gravel would not qualify as a hard surface. So if you wanted to make that amendment to the amendments, we would just remove
I
the
think that's an
word
easy-
paved.
Easy one, it's an easy
Right,
fix,
just
just
saying.
drop that word.
Like even my own property, we don't have a carport or.
Sure.
I'm gonna go a little further. So I can't park a vehicle on the side of my house, according to this regulation. That's my question, because
Okay.
if I read B, that's what I read.
Okay. So this applies only to home-based businesses that are seeking authorization to sell, service, or repair vehicles on a residential property.
Thank you, sir. And I will correct myself, it's 6 vehicles in the state of Arizona, according to ADOT. Thank you, ma'am.
So just to further deal with this and really give you a hard time, Matt. I'm just, every time we say a home-based business, then I get a little bit not sure that, so if I'm just a person with cars in my yard and working on them, but I've never declared myself a home-based business, then I can do it? I can have the cars there in the yard and,
If there's not a commercial aspect to the use, meaning the vehicles aren't, that are personally owned aren't being flipped for sale or serviced or repaired, then you would be exempt from this section of code.
Now, we do have another section of the code that addresses people that are operating
That's right.
commercially. And what does that say?
And that's under the public nuisance section of the property maintenance code. And essentially, you're limited to one inoperative vehicle stored on the exterior premises outside a garage or a covered carport. And that vehicle needs to be covered by a car cover that's professionally designed and manufactured for that automobile.
And
So the home hobbyist doesn't apply, this doesn't apply to the home hobbyist who may be working on a car or two. Yes, ma'am, did you have a question?
yes, adversely impacting I know nuisance is defined in our laws. Is adversely impacting, do we have a way to determine what that counts at? Like,
Is that term defined?
that seems subjective without a definition.
It's discretionary. So there's a plan that's presented that's going to demonstrate how they are going to maintain the use in a manner that's compatible with the residential character of the surrounding properties. So that could be achieved in a number of ways. We're not going to prejudge. So the burden is on the applicant to show to us that they are going to, again, not alter the essential residential character of the neighborhood.
And admittedly, that's kind of, I'll say, loosey-goosey.
Yeah.
And really, the residential character of the neighbor is in the eye of the beholder, i.e. the neighbor who's going to file the complaint.
And again, the intent with that is just to provide an opportunity for a property owner, again, with a larger property or a large garage in the back that is unique from the typical residential lot to seek extra consideration for additional vehicles beyond the two. The alternative that's available to you is just to establish a firm cap. And then there's no ambiguity with that.
Or not approve the ordinance at all.
Well, yeah.
If
Isn't
you
that
decide to
correct?
proceed, of course, you always have that option.
Any other discussion? Comments? Okay. Then what I'm going to do is I'll call the question, but again, remember, we're declaring a 30-day public hearing period. So this will come back to us after the 30-day period. So all those in favor of item number 6, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you very much, and thank you for the good discussion. We'll now move on to new business. And Mr. McLaughlin, excuse me, Ms. Wolf, please bring the item to the table.
You're
I
just
don't-
trying
I
to
don't know
skip
why-
everybody
I
today.
don't know why I'm in a hurry today.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that Resolution 2019-084, Holiday at Pueblo del Sol Phase 5 Preliminary Plat Lots 1 through 59 be approved.
A second.
It's been moved and seconded. Now, Mr. McLaughlin, would you give us the staff report, please?
All right, this request is for preliminary plat approval of a 59-lot subdivision. This is the final phase of the Holiday Pueblo del Sol neighborhood. The subject property consists of 11.5 acres, as depicted in red on the map. Access to the property will be from Resort Drive, which connects to Canyon de Flores Drive, which functions as a collector street for the neighborhood. The internal streets will be private and will have a total width of 31 feet, which is acceptable. Private streets are built to the same pavement cross-section and construction standards as public streets to ensure their durability. The property is zoned for multifamily residential use, which allows a full spectrum of residential housing types at varying lot sizes and densities. The minimum lot size for detached single-family homes, which is what the developer is seeking to build, is 4,500 square feet. The proposed lots range in size from just over 4,700 square feet to just over 8,100 square feet. The homes will likely match or be similar to those previously constructed in earlier phases. PDS Water Company will provide water to the subdivision. They received a designation of adequate water supply from the Arizona Department of Water Resources on May 17th of, I think it was 2013. Public sewer will be provided by the city. A Central Park was constructed with the first phase to offer a recreational amenity to the residents of future phases of the neighborhood, including the one under consideration. There's an approved linear greenway trail along the wash separating the Holiday neighborhood and the Retreat subdivision. The preliminary plat was reviewed and approved by the city's Development Review Committee on September 25th and the Planning and Zoning Commission on October 1st by unanimous vote. A finding was made that the development code requirements have been met. All property owners within 500 feet of the proposed subdivision have been notified and no comments have been received to date. And with that, I'll answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. McLaughlin. Any questions for Mr. McLaughlin? Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. And I'm sorry I didn't ask yesterday, Matt. I thought about it last night after I was looking back at it. Is there plans to put ingress or egress street from Plat 5 or Phase 5 to Highway 92, excuse me?
No, there is not.
Okay, no.
There's not, but if memory serves me, I think
There is
there's
two
a-
points of
there is an
access.
emergency gate for fire at some point along that western side, and I don't remember exactly where it is, whether it fits the old, the phase to the north or whatever, but there is a way for emergency vehicles to get in there or out of there quickly, and that's the only gate that's there on that side, on the highway side.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
And the fire marshal did sign off on this.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Just another curious question related to private streets, and how long do they stay private? Do they ever become part of the city streets?
The association would have to petition the city council to consider the acceptance of private streets. They would have to be evaluated and determined at that time as to whether they're acceptable or not, or need to be improved. And it's not an automatic thing. It's case by case.
I'm probably the only member on the council that has gone through this and accepting private streets coming to the city. One of the things, hopefully in this development, it does meet the city construction standards. In the past, a number of the streets in the older neighborhoods that were private and then became public, the city council didn't require them to meet the city standards before they came in. We did pass, if I remember correct, I don't remember what year it was, we did through the P&Z, we did pass an ordinance that said if we accept streets, they have to be brought up to city standards first, and that includes underlayment, the amount of gravel, amount of pavement, et cetera, sand compaction and all that kind of stuff. City standards have to be met. And so when that happens is the people that own the street, whether it's the homeowner association or whether it's the developer, has to petition the city, and they go through a hearing at the P&Z, and they come through council for acceptance of the roads. But we've already got established standards, if I'm not mistaken, Matt.
We do.
Yeah.
Thank you. And thank you.
Yeah, I've been here too long already. Okay. Any other questions for Matt? Thank you, Mr. McLaughlin.
Thank you.
Any further discussion on this item? Okay, with that, I'll call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you very much. We'll now move on to item number 8. Ms. Pacheco.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that the City Council regular meeting minutes of September 26, 2019 be approved as written.
It's been moved and seconded. Any additions, corrections, comments on the minutes?
No.
Seeing none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? It's unanimous. We next move to call the public. We have one member of the public that would like to address us on the aforementioned item number 2 was Mr. Matthew, is it Haupt with an H? Okay. You have 5 minutes, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening to you and members of the council. It's an honor to be here. My name is Matthew Hopt. I've been a resident since 2010. Item number 2, approval of the modifications of refuse services and fees. I know you've been talking about recycling and trash for quite a while, and I'm sure you'd understandably be tired of it. But I'd like to address this item tonight. I attended the working session on Tuesday, so I know you don't take this matter lightly. A week ago Tuesday, a normal trash pickup day in my neighborhood, driving down my street to work. On the left, a green dumpster. The lid can't close because there's cardboard boxes in it. On the right, another green dumpster. The lid can't close because there's branches and green debris in it. So no matter the solution you find, I'm sure it will impact people's habits. But I know part of the solution is potentially raising or initiating a fee for drop-off. And I would ask that the council keep pursuing a solution until that part is not implemented. I think that could even more adversely affect people's habits. Thank you. That was my point I'd like to make tonight about item number 2.
Thank you, sir. We'll next move on to comments and requests of council. Tonight we start with Ms. Wolf.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I am happy that we are starting to get fall in our neighborhood. Does that mean it's like 75, 80 and not 60? Is that, I think, fall in Arizona, and I think that's fabulous. So I'm really excited about that. The other thing I do want to say is that if anybody in the community, and I think I do speak on behalf of all of our council members, if you do want to speak with us or you want to have meetings with us, please feel free to talk to us, contact us, and I know I would not, and I don't know any of my fellow council members that would not be willing to speak with you. So thank you, and that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Christine, and thank you for that public service announcement. Ms. Pacheco.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just had a comment. I was grateful to see members of the fatality review team here tonight. I am very familiar with the work that they do. It's very important. And we had a lot of discussion about that topic at the League of Cities conference, and there was discussion about fatality reviews teams saying that they're successful if the information learned at those teams is gleaned and someone does something with it. Like, we take that information that we gain from these fatality review boards and we take action based on information learned. And so just wanted to make that point. It's so important, especially given the events of this week, that we address domestic violence in our community and take time this month to focus on those efforts and renew our conviction to address those efforts in our community. And so that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you, Ms. Pacheco. Ms. Humphries.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In addition to it being Domestic Violence Awareness Month, I know it's also Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month, and that means Canyon Vista Medical Center will be hosting the Walk to Remember once again. This is the 11th year that they're doing it. It's a 5K if you're a runner. If you're not, it's a 1.5 mile walk, a nice stroll. It's at Veterans Memorial at Ramada number 3 on October 19th. And they meet at 8 a.m., but it doesn't start until a little later because this is for families who have lost a baby in utero or in the first year, and they put out things to make like T-shirts or tiles, and it's a really beautiful thing. People think that when someone loses a child, they don't want to talk about it, it'll make them sad, but it's the opposite. They want you to talk about their kids and recognize them. And also, I have some really great news that I wanted to share about the school district. So it was in the news at the beginning of the year that the school district, Sierra Vista Unified School District, started out with a negative balance of $104,000. And as of this week, they're in the Blackthorn General Fund has a positive balance of $686,000. Capital Fund has $690,000. completely turned things around and in the right direction. There were hard choices that were made, but it's exciting to see what a big change and how far they've come in such a short amount of time. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Humphrey. Mr. Benning.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Excuse me. I just want to say it was nice having a family review team here also. And for a National Domestic Violence Awareness Month, I want to reiterate the number, that the domestic hotline, 1-800-799-SAFE, in case anybody missed it. And just a beautiful day. I'm glad fall's here also. So thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. Truly blessed.
Thank you, Mr. Benning.
I have nothing.
Whoa, Gwen, are you doing okay?
Yeah, after the meeting. Okay.
Oh, my goodness.
Mayor Pro Tem Gray.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I'll agree with that fall is here when it's cold enough for me to bring the Uggs out. Then that's how I gauge that. So I just want to say I'm happy to see the chamber in attendance. Lisa, thank you. And Melanie was here for the work session on Tuesday. So thank you guys for coming and getting information to take back to your members. I would also just like to say a couple of things positively, of course. Is I really enjoy the fact that this council is taking things and not just glazing over, but taking the time to look at the issues that are coming before us, to discuss them. And I'm looking at a quote right now, and it says, "The ultimate solutions to problems are rational. The process of finding them is not." And that is very true. And I think oftentimes in work sessions, the public and even sometimes us forget that that's exactly what we're doing, is we're trying to find solutions to problems that we have. And we've asked the staff to go back and do exactly what they did, which is come back to us with some possible solutions, whether we accept those as council or not, or continue to discuss. In those discussion does not constitute decision. But I'm really, really proud of this council for taking all the issues very seriously, discussing in a very civil manner, and ultimately helps us just to be better in general. So thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted, we couldn't do that unless we had a good staff
That
to
is
provide us
absolutely true.
key and critical information for our decisions. So I want to thank the staff too, not just the council.
That's right.
Okay, staying on the theme that we established earlier with our proclamation, Friday at 7 o'clock at the Klein Center is the Forgash House, is a variety show for the Forgash House to support the Forgash House. So I would encourage everybody to go. It's a great show. It's been running there for a year. It's one of the main fundraisers for the Forgash House. Saturday, of course, we have Cars in the Park, so go out and enjoy the old and new cars and the sports cars, and it's a great family event. And of course, at 7 o'clock on Saturday, the Sierra Vista Symphony will start its 25th year in our community. Wow. And it's not one of those things where you got to put on the tuxedo and go out. You in both these events, you can buy a ticket right there before the show and walk in basically street clothes and enjoy a variety of either classical music, or in the case of the variety show, they have everything from dancers to old ballads to whatever else. So it's both are going to be great shows, and I would encourage you to support both the Forgash House and the Sierra Vista Symphony Association in their 25th year. And with that, is there anything else? What was that?
Columbus Day.
Oh yeah, Columbus Day. Did we talk about Columbus Day, Chuck?
City offices are open on Columbus Day.
Okay, city office will be open.
It's fall break next week for the
Well, I know
kids.
for the kids too. Okay.
Your
So, if there's nothing else, thank you very much, and appreciate the public's participation tonight. Meeting's adjourned.